Wading knee-deep in rainwaters, the devastating impact of Western Cape storms. Some cancer drugs used in more than 100 countries don't work and leave patients at risk of fatal side effects.
And then Daddy has to sometimes use strong language.
Who's your daddy? A White House video milks NATO chief sycophancy towards Donald Trump and his trending words. Hello, I'm Jane Dutton.
EWN. In touch, in tune, and independent.
Crime intelligence boss Dumisani Khumalo is set to appear before Pretoria court tomorrow after being arrested on charges including fraud and corruption. NPA Investigative Directorate spokesperson Henry Mamotame says Khumalo will appear alongside other senior police officials within crime intelligence who have also been arrested. It's understood the top cop was arrested this afternoon upon landing at OR Tambo International Airport. Mamotame has outlined he cannot divulge much on the matter until the group appears in court.
The Investigating Directorate Against Corruption confirms that Lieutenant General Dumisani Khumalo has been arrested and no further details will be provided until he and others appear before court.
While President Cyril Ramaphosa's office has remained quiet on reasons behind the axing of Andrew Whitfield as one of the deputy ministers at Trade, Industry and Competition, Eyewitness News can reveal he's been accused of insubordination. This is linked to a trip he took, along with his party, the DA, to Washington without being granted permission by the president. Earlier, Ramaphosa's office confirmed the removal, saying this is not an indication of a wholesale cabinet reshuffle.
President Cyril Ramaphosa has removed the Honourable Andrew Whitfield MP from the position of Deputy Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition. The President has thanked the former Deputy Minister for the time he served in the role. However, the President has not indicated any intention to conduct a wholesale cabinet reshuffle.
Are the people of South Africa expected to accept that fraudsters, corruption accused and Zondo accused are protected while Deputy Minister Andrew Whitfield is removed?
Torrential rains continue to wreak havoc in many parts of the Western Cape, leaving thousands of residents destitute. Humanitarian aid workers and government officials are crisscrossing the province to assist affected families. Weather-related incidents have been reported in Khayelitsha, Wandle, Nomzamo, Vygiskral and Belgravia. This is Khayelitsha, where flood victims have been forced to leave their waterlogged homes.
The mayor just also responded now to say, I must just be specific. What assistance does these people need? So I've tried to say your food, blankets, clothes, the mattresses.
The government has now officially declared the deadly floods in the Eastern Cape a national disaster, opening the door for greater support and funding from the Treasury. The move follows a comprehensive damage assessment, with infrastructure losses estimated at more than 5 billion rand and more than 4,700 people left homeless. So far, the death toll sits at 101 and is expected to rise as search and recovery operations continue. The declaration paves the way for national government intervention, including additional funding, technical support, and emergency resources for the hardest hit communities.
The declaration made in terms of the Disaster Management Act, number 57 of 2002, comes amid heavy rainfall, flooding, strong winds, and snowfall that have battered parts of the country, with the Eastern Cape being the hardest hit.
The ANC says its former president is well within his rights to approach the courts and challenge his axing from the party. Today, the Umkhonto weSizwe Party released a statement saying its leader has launched a High Court challenge over the termination of his ANC membership. The ANC expelled Zuma last year after finding him guilty of bringing the party into disrepute by forming another political organization. Speaking on the sidelines of a Freedom Charter anniversary event in Soweto today, ANC Deputy General Secretary Nomvula Mokonyane weighed in on the matter.
Isn't that again the people shall govern? Nobody is going to be deprived the right to use all the institutions that protect this hard-won democracy. Let him go through that. These courts are meant exactly to deepen democracy in line with the Freedom Charter. 50 years ago, 40 years ago, you would not dare take any government department or any structure of the apartheid government to court, you'll be deemed a terrorist.
Vital chemotherapy drugs have failed quality tests, leaving cancer patients in more than 100 countries at risk of ineffective treatments and fatal side effects. The Bureau of Investigative Journalism says the drugs in question form the backbone of treatment plans for numerous common cancers, including breast, ovarian, and leukemia. Over the past 6 years, they've been shipped to every populated continent on the planet, like Nepal, Ethiopia, North Korea, US, UK, and Saudi Arabia. The test findings come from a landmark study by researchers at the University of Notre Dame, Indiana, who analyzed 189 samples of various cancer drugs. About 1/5 failed. The worst performing drug in the study is made by Indian manufacturer Venus Remedies. Of the 17 companies to have manufactured failed drugs, 16 are based in India.
So the drugs that researchers from University of Notre Dame tested have failed quality testing, which means that their active ingredient has been measured, and active ingredient in some of them is really, really low. So that means that they are probably not going to help a patient at all. And in some of them, active ingredient is so high that they become toxic.
The ANC has labelled Cape Town Mayor Jordan Hill-Lewis invested in Hope budget as anti-poor. Hill-Lewis tabled the city's reworked budget today, saying it includes a 40 billion rand infrastructure investment, tariff reforms, and a social assistance net for struggling households and pensioners, and will be used to tackle sewage overflows, the new My City Southeast route, and upgrades to water and electricity networks.
These are the capital programs that are supposed to be addressing the hardships that people are facing now.
Some residents of Kliptown, Soweto, where the Freedom Charter was adopted, say the Democratic government has fallen short of achieving the ideas contained in the document. Today marks exactly 70 years since political formations from all racial groups met at the Walter Sisulu Square for a Congress of the People and adopted the Freedom Charter. At the time, the Charter would serve as a blueprint to what a democratic South Africa should look like.
Today, the ANC held a commemorative event to mark the 70th anniversary since the adoption of the Freedom Charter. The event was held here at the Walter Sisulu Square in Kliptown, Soweto. Now, the square is dilapidated and has been looted, which some residents here in Kliptown says is a metaphor for how the ANC has governed the country since 1994. However, the ANC says there's no cut-off timeline for when the ideas of the Freedom Charter should be implemented.
We are now making plans to refurbish and restore the square. In the financial year now, we've put aside a budget which will start with the designs, appointment of consultants, and all that stuff. But that also includes the overall Kliptown development, not just the square.
70 years since the adoption of the Freedom Charter, the party that has governed South Africa since 1994 says it still needs more time to achieve all of the ideals contained in the Freedom Charter. Thabiso Goba, Eyewitness News, at the Walter Sisulu Square in Kliptown.
Iran's supreme leader has emerged for the first time since the ceasefire between Iran and Israel. Ayatollah Ali Khamenei says his country has delivered a, quote, hand slap to America's face. He hailed his country's, quote, victory over Israel and vowed never to surrender to the United States. Israel's Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, also hailed a, quote, historic victory for Israel. And US President Donald Trump is calling for Netanyahu's ongoing criminal trial to be called off. Trump has described it as a, quote, ridiculous witch hunt.
Then Daddy has to sometimes use strong language to get stuff.
Now, that's the NATO boss, Mark Richard, praising US President Donald Trump for his action on Israel and Iran. This phrase, trending on social media, seems to be the main takeaway from the recent NATO summit in the Netherlands. And the whole summit was sculpted around Trump and pushing up membership fees. As Trump made his way home, the White House released this video to Usher's song, Hey Daddy. We leave you with those images. We'll see you for more again tomorrow.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent.